Welcome to B2B No Bull.
That's right, no double speaker gibberish, no talking heads. This is a safe place to talk about what you as professionals in the space can do to look like heroes to your bosses, make sales very happy, bring success to the organization, and that bottom line. Let's get started.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of B2B No Bull. I know you know what we do here. We strip it all down and we just get right to the heart of what drives a company's growth. I'm Liz Brohan. My brother Mark is not with me today. He's off in the world somewhere, probably talking about e-commerce because that's all he really loves to talk about. Anyway, I've got somebody better. With me today as a very special guest host is Valinda Cox. You'll all remember Valinda because she was the very first guest on B2B No Bull when we launched about a year ago. So how cool is that?
Thanks, Liz.
You're welcome. Let me tell everybody I'm going to remind everybody who Valinda is. So Valinda is the president of a consulting firm. It's her own firm. It's called Sound Horizons. And before that, she was a vice president of Konica Minolta, and she was their VP of e-commerce in the U.S., right?
Yeah,
so
that was one of my last roles.
Pretty big deal.
Big job,
Welcome
yeah.
and thank you.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here and to have a conversation with John about what I think is one of the most important and pressing issues with businesses today is how they create value and do they realize what kind of value they can create. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. We're going to hit on how you actually create a unique value proposition. And hey, you all know this. We're not talking about logos. We're not talking about taglines. We are talking about what differentiates you, sets you apart, and what is unique about your organization. So with that, I want to welcome John. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Great to be here. Not only great to be here, but great to be in studio with you both. This is super fun and great environment to sit down and have a conversation. So I'm super looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, let me tell everybody a little bit about you before we get started. John is the founder of UVP Solutions, and he is also the author of a brand new book that I think everybody ought to pick up and take a look at called Define Value and Drive Growth. Define Value, Drive Growth.
He's worked as with founder organizations and small businesses for over 35 years.
Yeah, my whole career literally in family-owned or founder-led businesses. Pretty unique little spot. Small little story around that. I found myself, and I tell people that I'm one chromosome short. I was always one chromosome short of being an entrepreneur, but I loved being around them and working in the business and being part of that. So it's been neat to find that one chromosome here late in my career and start my own consulting business in UVP Solutions, and then obviously write the book, Define Value.
That's awesome.
Drive Growth.
Yeah.
So you're helping businesses.
Say it with me.
So you're helping businesses now learn how to compete not on price, but really on what the real value they create.
Yeah, it's interesting that people always start with the price piece, right? And I'm the first to say I spent a lot of my career in what people would call commodity business. We'll talk a little bit about that. So I don't ever shy away from the price piece. I think there is a price. There is a price that people have as a budget, right?
That's true.
Some people only have so much money to spend, and you have to be conscious of that. What I like to think about is, can your value get you chosen more often than not? And can your value take price if it is a factor, which it typically is in a buying scenario? Can your value put you over the end to not only be that choice, but to maybe sneak out a few more points of margin?
And there's a question that you say, it kind of anchors all of your philosophy around all of that. It's the one question that every company should be asking themselves, right?
Yeah.
So let's go back to that. Let's start there. What's that question?
It's sometimes it's fun. You bring it up and you smile before you talk about it, right? Because it's that question of, why should I choose you? It's the question that literally every client is asking, why should I choose you? I like to expand that a little bit, Liz, and I say not only every client from a prospect perspective, because the why do I choose you insinuates that it's a new relationship. I also like to expand it to also talk about why should I continue to do business with you, right? So it's not only thinking about how you approach new clients, but it's also about every day thinking about how you're creating value and stickiness with your existing clients, which is equally, if not more important.
But that's not a question that's easy to answer, right?
It's really difficult to answer. It shouldn't be. But in the businesses that you all have worked in and the ones that I've worked in, it's not as simple as you would think. What's interesting is it actually gets more difficult as you grow. So a lot of people come to us and say, hey, that success that we were having, that growth rate that we were experiencing, it seems to have slowed down. Makes perfect sense, right? So as you grow, you have more people involved in the sales process, right? It used to be an owner and a salesperson. Now you have multiple salespeople. You might have an operations team where you had one operator who was a good person who could sell additional services. Now you have 5, right? So the organizational mix changes. The people who are responsible for that growth grows, and that message is tough to get across those. 2 other interesting things happen, though, as well. Your clients change. So the client that you used to call on when you were 10 million is different than the client you're calling on when you're 20. Traditionally, as you grow, you start calling on bigger clients. Their needs, we'll talk a little bit about pain points and success factors in a minute. Their pain points and success factors change, and you have to change to those. But the big one that really changes is your competitive set. Because as you grow, the people that you used to compete against are different than the people you're competing against now. Mm-hmm. So take that same, $10 to $20 million example that we just used. At 10 million, you knew your competitive set. You grew against that competitive set to 20. But now all of a sudden you're competing against people who do 50. And they have more capabilities, right? They have maybe more skill sets. They obviously have more references around the people you're trying to get to. So now you have to level up and not compete against your $10 million competitor, but you got to be competent against your 50.
And what happens when a company can't articulate their value at any of those growth positions?
Great question, right? So back to where we started, price becomes a little bit more of an issue. But really what happens where price comes out of is really client or prospect confusion, right? So if you can't articulate why you are different, it's really difficult for a client to make a buying decision regarding you versus somebody else. What's interesting is, and the statistics are all over the place, you've heard it, but, people now talk about that 70 to 80% of the buying decision is made before somebody engages your organization.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you think about that, where do you show up? How do you show up? And in that research that our prospect or client is doing, what have they come away with your 1, 2, or 3 unique differences that make you stand out? Obviously, price becomes a discussion point once engaged and we're negotiating a deal. But to even get to that point, how do you separate yourself through that process when that decision maker has to make a value decision about your business on basically what they see on your storefront,
your,
right?
Your
Website,
digital footprint.
Your digital footprint, right?
Right.
And quality products and great service, those are just table stakes. Those are not differentiators, right? Particularly if you've got a broadened competitive set.
Exactly right. They're the ticket to entry, right? The evaluation process has those components of kind of those must-haves and those need-to-haves, those must-haves that create a baseline of value that a client or prospect is going to buy. But really where value is created and differentiated is that next level where they say, okay, I see that this group of companies can deliver my needs. Now, of the companies that I'm evaluating who can deliver my needs, where can I get those next level of value components that not only eliminate my pain, but help me in some of the success factors that I'm trying to accomplish as a business?
And then you said something I believe it's in your book, about value, that if you don't define your value, the marketplace is going to define it for you.
It's so true. You think about leaving to chance the impression that your business leaves with somebody else. And it almost seems silly to think about, but by not defining who you are, not defining why you do what you do and how you do what you do in a way that's uniquely different, the end result is you leave that open to somebody else doing it for you, either a prospect or client, or potentially your competitor. Competitor then says what you do or don't do based on their experience of what they see.
Generally, the competitor's description of your value is not going to truly be complete, comprehensive, and maybe right on.
Yeah, usually not as complimentary as you would like, right? Yeah,
right.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, then let's kind of dive in then. Let's talk about the framework for how to actually go about creating your value proposition. I know you've got lots of great steps and a roadmap in your book.
Yep.
So let's start there.
Yeah.
Like your 4D roadmap.
The 4D roadmap. Great story. You got a second for a story?
Oh, we love stories.
So where did the 4Ds come from? So for a lot of reasons, I got to go to this wonderful private high school back in the Northeast, and I had no business being there, but I was there anyway. And my first semester I was there, I got 4 Ds and a conditional pass. And the conditional pass means you actually failed the class, but it's the first part of a second part of a class. And if you got a C or better on the second, they gave you a D on the first semester.
Ouch.
So I could have actually gone, if I needed to, the 5D roadmap, but I only needed 4 of them. So that's where it came from. And it's a great story. It is a great story. It's a great story. When my mom passed away, we were going through her stuff, and I'll get choked up about it, but she had the report card. And it was there, and I got to see him. So I thought about not putting in there, but I thought, what a cool tie, and it actually worked. So it wasn't forced. The D's didn't create. It just happened to be a neat story around it. So the framework, the goal of the book, and where the framework came from is I was blessed early in my career to work for a value proposition machine organization called the Butcher Company, and talk about it a lot in the book. And when I was a young seller, I was given a unique value proposition with a bow on it. I was given sales training based on those value propositions with a bow on it. And I was actually given the market segmentation that said, if you take this value proposition and this training that I have given you, and you take it and find people who look like this, healthcare, education, and you deliver it in this way, you'll be successful. And I thought that's the way the world worked. For the next 30 years of my career, everywhere I went, it didn't exist. And it just happened to be my unique ability to be able to build it. So I'm a marketer by education and a salesperson by having to feed my family.
Well, that is rare. Right.
And it's neat when you have to make a living selling and you don't have the sales toolkit. So through that process, what I did when I went to a new role and had to build all these pieces was I built this framework of how we did it. And that's where the 4D roadmap came from. And it really is a methodical process around discovery, the first D, of getting the information that you need to start framing value propositions.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think that is so important because a lot of companies will tell you, we don't need to go through discovery. We know everything about ourselves. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
A question I get all the time is why do people not have the unique value propositions that they need? And I have a whole bunch of theories around it, one of which is the majority of value propositions are built inside out. And
yes.
Inside out, not only inside, but with a very small group of inside folks. Think about the owner, think about the leadership team that sit down and say, what are our core values? What is our purpose as an organization? What products or services should we sell because we have these strengths? robust marketers will tell you that all great value propositions are built outside in. You have
Absolutely.
to get that, start with the client and work your way backwards. Now, I want to caveat that because one of the big pieces of discovery is around inside out, but it's about the expansion of the inside, not just in that small group of leadership, but discovery through a broader base of functionally based, geographic based employees who know your organization best and can tell you truly from the inside what your strengths are.
And even those employees who've interfaced directly with the customers, right? Because customers have maybe given them some insights, and leadership may not even know that that's a value that they're creating.
And it's a great point. And when you think about it, it's customer-facing folks that you might not think of. Your accounting team, who talk to clients all the time, right? Obviously, your customer service, client service, success team. Your operations team, who are client-facing and have very robust conversations about what's good and bad about your organization. You're exactly right. The data comes from broad-based folks who have customer client-facing focus, but you might not think about them as that being necessarily their number one title in their role, right?
Right. And even today, I think you get feedback from like your AI, your chat, your interface on call centers.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of digital content that you can look at to see where customers are unhappy that sometimes it gets missed as well.
That's exactly right.
And customer service. You'll get a lot of really great data and good stories to build on. If you just talk to, what are you hearing from our customers?
It's probably the most gratifying part of the process. And I've been in executive debrief meetings after we do employee interview discovery, and literally had owners brought to tears because they finally saw how beautiful that people think about the business that they've built, the opportunities that they've been given, and how grateful they are for both. And, the owner didn't even know it. And it's a wonderful thing to see.
Right.
Awesome.
Sometimes he or she is just too isolated or insulated. And this just opens their minds and their eyes to what's being said in the marketplace about them.
And sometimes there's a fear that you might not like what you hear. And
that's
more,
a certainty sometimes.
And more than not, my experience has been it's the exact opposite.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, this kind of touches on culture then. And I know that you believe that culture is a big piece of the value proposition component.
You spend a lot of time in marketing and agencies. There are some people out there that will tell you that culture is the only true differentiator in the marketplace, right? The only thing that somebody can't copy is your unique culture. I think there's other pieces to it, but it certainly is a huge piece of the pie. And one of the reasons why we're a big proponent of doing this work internally, because it's very difficult on a short-term basis to bring in somebody else to, obviously they can help you do this process, but we really are strong on business-led in the process because to know your culture, we say that you have to live your culture.
And it's not just the leadership team, it's everyone in the organization, correct?
Everyone in the organization and how that drives. It's really just went through with a client, good example of this, just went through a client discovery process 6 months ago. And we were redefining our core values. And through the discovery phase, we asked about 12 employees questions. And one of them was, what's kind of special about the organization? And on the surface, you would read them all and you would come away with the word that we see in core values a lot, teamwork. But as a leadership team, and as we were debriefing, we said, there's something deeper here. Teamwork, I get the definition, but what we're really seeing is something more. And we ended up with the word camaraderie. And teamwork would have worked, but it wasn't unique to their culture. What was unique to their culture was this deeper meaning of personal connection, where it wasn't that I'm working with you because I need to, because we're on the same team. I'm working with you because, Liz, I have a genuine interest as my comrade to make sure that you are successful. And I care about that. Even if what you're doing is outside of my scope,
Right.
I'm not going to let you fail. And that's a perfect example of that inside out piece of learning and knowledge through discovery, that maybe it's just a little bit different than you think about it. And you talk about that uniqueness and how culture plays. When you go out and talk to a client about your culture and you say, our culture is based on teamwork or being people first or client centric, and your other competitors say the same thing, when in fact, if you did the discovery and got to the root, one of our core values is camaraderie. And let me tell you what that means.
Absolutely. And I love that you can interpret things like that to get a company a little deeper, to understand that teamwork isn't just teamwork. It's really when we all enjoy working together and learn from each other that really becomes a cultural difference for the organization.
And those little nuances, that's what customers end up feeling, that they may not know what it is, but they know there's something different about that company. That company's giving me something different. And then underneath is where this camaraderie, for example, is a differentiation.
And it's so well said, because it's not, we talk about in discovery, we just did a post yesterday and it's causing quite a bit of buzz. It's messages in the bottle. I love the old Police song, 100 billion bottles washed up on the shore. Nobody tells you what your culture is and how to articulate it. What they do is they give you little tidbits. They give you messages in the bottle. And us as good marketers have to connect those dots. And it's not just one, but it's when camaraderie adds to X, adds to Y, adds to Z, comes all together, and all of a sudden, to your exact point, that client said, that business is different. They do the same thing, but they're fundamentally different. That's what we're getting to.
There's sort of like this exponential difference, but it's hidden there, that hidden value.
Well, and I love that you said you can get a lot of that just by talking to your customers. So in this process, what are some of the other things we should be asking our customers in the discovery phase?
Yeah. So really interesting. There's really three things that I like to find out from the prospect or the client. The first is around what they're trying to accomplish. It really is kind of, what are your pain points? So what are the basis for what you're doing and how my product or services helps that? The second piece is the next level, which is what we talk about, success factors. So if pain points are your ticket to entry, success factors are, what are those other things as a business you're trying to achieve? It could be increased client experience scores, right? It could be getting our product or building or process certified. And you might say, well, does my product or service has a direct impact on that? Maybe not a direct impact, but if your product or service has an indirect or a cursory impact on that, and you tie that to value, then you're seen now as that solution provider, right? And then the third piece is really around expectations. If I was going to be, or if I am a provider of product or service to you, what are your expectations of us as an organization? So really, what are your pain points that I know I need to take care of? What are your success factors? What are you as a business trying to solve that I can really contribute to? And then if I do both of those things as a supplier, vendor, partner, what are the expectations that if I put all that together, then I become a valuable resource to you? And that's really kind of what I like to think about. One other piece I'd love to talk about here is vendor supplier partners.
Oh, good point.
A lot of people will say, oh, I get it. Interview your employees. We don't do it, but I get that makes sense. Of course, Liz, you got to interview your clients. But people always say, what's this about vendor partners? So if you think about and I use the example in the book. You think about if you're I talk about my favorite Italian restaurant, right? And you're an Italian restaurant and you're doing takeout. And you want to understand what the other Italian restaurants in your area are doing for takeout, for example. Hard to get that information, right? Unless you talk to the one pivot position who's calling on all of those restaurants. How about the food broker, the person who is selling the food and or the person who is selling the containers? And you never have to ask them directly about what, the other Italian restaurant is doing, but you simply say, hey, Liz, really appreciate you as a supplier. You do great things for us. We're thinking about what our takeout sizes should be. Food costs are going up. We want to know if we should cut portions. How do we manage this? Can you just tell me, of people who do what we do? I know you sell a lot of restaurants around here. Can you tell me what what are the most common sizes for takeouts?
Yeah.
And you would be amazed. One, just because you asked, that they not only tell you the information, they'll tell you by name of your client exactly who buys what, and you never even asked.
Yeah.
Valuable information.
Sometimes it's just a matter of asking, what trends are you seeing out there? And then they just love to open up because they've got all this knowledge that they never get to impart, and they're happy to do it, just like you just said.
Happy to do it.
Yeah.
Happy. Thrilled, actually.
Thrilled,
yeah.
yes.
I've actually been doing it in a situation where people have said, I've probably shared too much information, didn't I? Oh, no, you didn't.
Never.
Very valuable information.
And by the way, it stays with between us girls, right?
Yeah.
John, you also talk about the importance, you emphasize the importance of, understanding the competition, but don't obsess about it.
This is one that strikes me where people think about competition, I think backwards. And when I say don't obsess about it, people think about like, I'm out to get the competition. This is war, so to speak. And I like to think about it not as I'm going after a competitor. I like to think about it as that competitor coming after my best clients, right? Flip the script and say, if that competitor was coming to call on my best client, what are they saying and how are they saying it and how do I stack up? So the obsession isn't about, I'm going to go out and beat them. The obsession to me should be flipped and to say, if they were talking to my best customer, my best client, how would I stack up? So what that forces you to do is look at your competitors a little bit differently. From a capability standpoint, go to their website. What are their services, right? What are their products? What is their culture? What are their core values? What do they talk about that's important to them? What technology are they offering? How are they talking about their community service and giving back? All those components I want to understand. One, because I need to understand how to defend myself. But then once you understand that, I need to understand because I want to differentiate myself.
Of course.
Yep. I always had a philosophy when I had my own business that I didn't hate my competition. And some people thought that was just ridiculous. You're supposed to hate them. And I thought, no, I want all boats to float and I want mine to float higher.
Yep.
So it was just kind of changing that perspective to keep an eye on them. But if they're having success, that means the market is going to have more success, and I'm going to be right there with it.
You cannot differentiate. You cannot build unique value propositions unless you know what your competitors are talking and how they're talking about it. You can't differentiate unless you understand the words they're using, the phrases they're using, and you use different words. I had a great story around when I was in the industrial cleaning business. We were commercial cleaners. We cleaned big commercial buildings. And one of our competitors, Silicon Valley-based company, would tell in every one of their presentations that we are more of a technology company than a cleaning company. And in our business, it was a bid and then presentation business. So they would be on at 1 o'clock, I'd be on at 2 o'clock, and my competitor would be on at 3 o'clock. I knew they went at 1. I knew what they said. So in my presentation, I would say, there's some people in our industry that are more of a tech company than a cleaning company. We're not. We're actually a cleaning company that uses tech to ensure that we deliver the highest level of outcomes possible for you. And that came directly from discovery. No client ever told me that they were looking to hire a tech company to do their cleaning. In all the questions I asked, they wanted competent cleaners who use tech to deliver their service, but they weren't looking for a tech company who was doing cleaning.
Yeah,
Right.
that's very interesting.
That's knowing your competitor.
Right.
And anytime I draw that line and I knew I came after that competitor, you could see smiles across the table. People would be like,
Absolutely. You were actually articulating what they wanted to hear. So that's fabulous.
Never named the competitor. Never. Didn't have to.
Well, I think you sum up discovery as the ability to let go of assumptions and build evidence. And I think that this whole conversation really points to that.
Well, I hate to say it because everybody, I don't need to do discovery. I've been doing this for 25 years.
I heard it my entire career.
I don't need to do discovery. Our clients are my best friends. They will tell me if I need to pivot, move, do something different. And it's just not factual. It's just simply not factual. And I say in the book, and I think it's important, you're not doing discovery to validate what you know. You're doing discovery to understand what you don't know. Exactly. And for that, you have to take the blinders off and you have to let the process happen naturally.
Well said. So let's dive into the next couple Ds, right? What comes next?
Yeah. So once we have this, big bucket of truths, as I say,
Big bucket of truth.
You're really able to start kind of developing what your unique value proposition should be. So the second D is develop. And that's really just a synergization, if you will. Is that a word? Synergization?
I like it.
Synergy, whatever.
We'll use it.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
We'll coin it right here.
New word. Write it down. Trademark it. Is synergizing that information into what makes you unique. And really, there's a couple of things I love about this. One is you get to open up all those bottles, right? You now have all of the information. And the process, although it seems daunting, is very, very, shouldn't say that. It seems daunting, but it's not. It's not easy. I was going to do the old very, very easy thing. It's not easy, but it's doable. And if you think about it through this lens, you have a whole list of what your organizational strengths are, right? From your discovery process internally and through asking client questions. You clearly understand what client pain points are, what success factors are, and what they expect from you by vertical market. So you've interviewed industrial clients, you've interviewed education clients, you've interviewed healthcare clients. So you know them by vertical. Where value is created and where unique value propositions come is when you take your organizational strengths and you line them up, bullet point to bullet point, on which one of those alleviate pain and drive success. So when you think about, okay, how do I articulate who I am? It's what do I do? How does that alleviate and help my client? And then how do I articulate that? And before you know it, you have a unique value proposition around that particular client. One point that's very interesting and I love, people ask me all the time, what's one of the favorite concepts in the book? And this is it. And you'll appreciate this from years of the marketing. People are always looking for that silver bullet, that unique thing that I'm so different than anybody else, right? And if you think about the world, right, except for, when the iPhone came out, right, the touch screen, I mean, there's just not that many pure, unique pieces of value. That doesn't mean that you cannot work hard as you develop your unique value proposition to differentiate what I call like competencies. So in my old world, back to the cleaning business, right? People used to call it janitorial or custodial cleaning. We went through in the company I worked with, and it was the time that indoor air quality was big. sustainability was big. And we simply changed this, what we called the service, from janitorial to custodial to cleaning for wellness. The act, the process of doing it was the same. What we changed was the thought around the outcome that we were trying to produce. And remember that eyebrow that went up when I talked about the competitor, when they didn't know the competitor? That same eyebrow went up in the room when people said, you do the same, back to the question you asked before. You do the same, but it's another one of those nuggets, just like that part of your culture that was a little bit different. And I like the way you think about that, because you're not thinking about the act of the service you perform. You're thinking about the outcome. And quite frankly, I don't care necessarily how you get it done, but I want the outcome. So like competencies articulated differently, those nuggets have to go because they strengthen those one or two things that are truly unique. If you give a money-back guarantee, you have technology your competitors don't have, right? There's usually only one or two of those things that are truly unique. But if you couple those with those other nuggets, those likes, and articulate them uniquely, then all of a sudden now you have 3, 4, 5 things that client comes back and says, you're just a little bit different.
Sort of a compounded value there.
Compounded value. Don't give up the like competencies because they're important to articulate.
You also mentioned about it all being grounded in reality. So, no marketing fluff, or as Liz might say, no bull.
Yes. Yeah. If you do discovery well, you don't need the bull. You don't need the fancy marketing words. What's fancy and what's catchy and what's cool is camaraderie. That's cool.
Right.
That's catchy. It's a heck of a lot more interesting than teamwork.
It's meaningful and very personal. I think
and I
that
didn't
connecting.
create it. It's not a fancy word that it's not holistic. Like everybody else is saying holistic. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not clarity. Clarity seems to be the new word now. Everything's clarity. I got to stop using it. I'm using it all. Clarity, right? Those are words that people are using. Camaraderie is a unique word. It feels like a marketing word, but it's not, because it's based in factual.
And has meaningful definition.
Has meaningful definition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So really, the whole idea of development gets easier when you've got a lot of data that you can synthesize, and then you can drive yourself to some unique language, some unique outcomes. That's the way development really, will grow.
Exactly. And this is where I love the use of technology and AI. Game changer in our business.
You have to tell us how. Everybody wants to know how.
So
what's the secret sauce?
So let me tell you. So in the old days, right? We all have old days. In the old days, I would do the 12 employee interviews. I would have myself and one other person, because it's really hard to ask questions and take notes. So 2 of us would ask questions, take notes. I would take those notes and type them up. The last discovery I did, after employee interviews, I had 50 pages of typewritten notes out of 12 employees. Then this is where we used to get, our unique ability came through. You would go through with a highlighter and you would highlight themes. Mm-hmm. And then once you had the themes highlighted, right, you would go back and you would create a new Word document and you would type all those themes. And it was that hourglass, a lot of information to draw broader and broader information. And where AI has helped us is you still got to know the prompts.
Yep.
You still got to know you still have to have the framework, but it can help you do that synthesizing a much quicker and much easier. In our consulting practice, we're actually just through development of our custom AI tool to build those prompts to make sure that you get the outcomes that you desire and need. But I always like to say here, you can't totally outsource, because we talked about culture. And when you're building uniqueness, AI does sometimes, we've seen recently, right, that it will want to vanilla your message. And, AI may or may not give you camaraderie. And if it doesn't, and it gives you teamwork or something else, then you get vanilla. So AI is terrific, wonderful. Use it every day. Certainly help the efficiency and the output of the thinking. But where it really becomes exciting is when you take the human element and the insightfulness of there and knowing that culture because you're living it. Remember, AI hasn't lived your culture. It hasn't been there for 12 years. But you take that intimacy of the discovery that we get from the human component and we add it to the efficiency and the added capability to think a little bit differently of AI. And it's I'm super excited about what we're going to be able to do there in our practice.
I think everyone is super excited about using the tool, but I would totally agree with you because when we use it, we have to give ourselves one directive, and that directive is make it better. Don't take it at face value, right? You've got to take what you know about an organization, what you know about what's going on, and make what AI gave you better and make it resonate.
Yep.
And there's so much about culture that's not documented in any way,
Correct.
observed in any digital format that AI can utilize. So they're limited in what they can, I'm giving it a personality, but AI is very limited because they can't see everything that you're experiencing inside your organization.
Exactly right. And that's why we talk about when we record the interviews and do those type of things, you're also there to feel the emotion and to see the emotion. And if you don't see and feel that emotion, sometimes you don't see camaraderie. You see teamwork, right? Yeah. So I'm excited about it. Our early indications we're through the end of our beta test, and early indications are it takes what we did and we'll be able to bring kind of the learnings and the roadmap from the book to more people to use in their business, which is super exciting.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Now, I almost hate to skip over the third D, but I really wanted to get to the fourth D in your roadmap because I think it's going to surprise a lot of marketers that are listening right now because it's delight, right? Tell us what you mean by delight.
Yeah. So the third D is deploy.
And right, deploy.
Yes, deploy. We
have to get it out there, folks.
Even though you're the boss, we're not skipping it, Liz. We're going to spend, you just can't skip. But deploy is an important piece, right? So we've done our discovery. We've built and developed our unique value propositions, and now we have to deploy that in the organization. The only point I'll make there, and it's because we talked about it a little bit earlier, right, is this deployment isn't just the sales organization. This deployment is an organizational communication of who we are, what we do, and how we do it. So every person that we talked about before, any person who is involved in the organization that has any interaction with our client knows what we're trying to accomplish and how we're trying to accomplish it. That's the transition to our fourth D, which is, I love that you asked it that way because a lot of times it's the last one, so it doesn't seem as important, but it's hugely important. And that's the delight component. And the interesting thing about delight is that it's so common sense to people that it's sometimes overlooked. And what I mean by that is if you ask anybody what's your turnover rate of clients, they will tell you, oh, we have a 96% retention rate or a 97% retention rate. And then you say, that's great. Can you show me your list of your 5 best testimonials that were just refreshed that month by industrial, by education, by healthcare? Well, we kind of have them, but I better call that client, make sure they're still happy with me. I thought we had some problems with them. And you think to yourself, you have 97% retention rate, right? So we're delighting apparently a lot of people. And we aren't capturing the delight of the clients that are experiencing the outcomes that we've sold and magnifying that in a way that's being our growth enabler, allowing us to grow at speed. The best way and the most underutilized way to grow when you want to become growth enabled and you really want to grow fast is utilizing your client advocates as part of your sales team. And everybody will say they do it. But when you ask those second and third level questions, my favorite one now is, how many of those 97% do you have on video? Oh,
None.
Oh, video. Oh, I thought you were going to say about the outdated piece of paper. Video.
Great thought.
None, right? So, and it doesn't have to be a great production like this. It's Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, would you sit down and just let me record a little 2-question interview with you on my iPhone?
Yeah.
Not
That's
there.
powerful.
You know, and I'll tell you, in my mind while you were going through this, I'm connecting deploy with delight, because it's during that deployment phase when I feel like we do get a chance to delight. We get to delight each other internally. We get to delight our customers. We get to ask them, how are you feeling about us? It is a way I think I can connect delight and deployment.
100%. And super well said. I mean, at those times in your business relationship where it's new, it's good. Hey, in our personal relationships, right? When it's new, it's good, it's going well, we're celebrating, we're winning together. What better time than to ask those questions? Of course, you can't ask advocacy questions when you're on the ropes, but some of the best of times is when we should ask and we don't.
Right.
Yeah.
I was thinking when you were describing there, we don't want the other D, which is disappoint.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We want
It's
to
the
just
wrong D.
Oh,
we
you got to bring up my 5th D, don't you? Yeah. You have to bring back the bad memories. Thanks.
Well,
Yeah.
my dad once got a D in economics. I saw one of his college report cards. So you're in good company.
I'm in
Not
good
to
company.
worry.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us this then? Is there anything, we've covered a lot of ground.
Yes.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about today that you just really need us all to know?
It's funny. So another one that I like bringing it up because it's a little controversial, and you've heard me go.
I love controversy.
You've heard me go back and forth on it today, right? And I call it out in the book, and that's the difference between a client and a customer. And a lot of people will tell you that there's not a difference, not to be defined here, but look it up. Use your favorite AI tool and just ask what the difference is. Unique difference. Mainly, customers are thought of as more transactional relationships, clients being more solution-based relationships. I don't want to tell people you have to call somebody clients or customers. I 99% of the time call the people that I want to do business with clients. But what I love and I try and stress in the book is whatever industry you're in, and if you're going and starting this process, I want you to think about going through the process as the people that you sell to being clients, that you are looking at a deeper level, not superficial, at a deeper level of how do I build a really deep and intimate relationship with this client based on the products and services I sell that isn't transactional. And I'm a Wisconsin guy, so, we have Quick Trip gas stations. And I tell the story all the time, right? Because if there's one commodity, it's a gas station. Quick Trip doesn't think about their business as a gas station. They very specific around clean bathrooms, right? Hot food, healthy options. And most importantly, client experience. A gas station thinks about client experience. A convenience store thinks about client experience. They're working really hard, and they've done a great job, and they have almost done it where when you check out of a Quick Trip, that associate will say to you, "See you next time." And that is basically that difference between changing that customer relationship into that transaction of I just bought a pack of gum to a client experience that says, not only did you buy a pack of gum, but we appreciate you and we want to see you next time. And what's the best part about that is I'm such a loyal Quick Trip customer. If there's a new associate and he or she doesn't say it to me, I say it to them. And their face is like, oh yeah, see you next time. Validating that what their boss told them about why that's important and why we're different, I back it up and I show them why from a client perspective. How cool is that?
It brings to
super
mind
cool.
another word that I love, and it's patron.
Patron.
Yeah.
Patron.
Absolutely.
Very nice. Yeah. So that would be the one that I client versus customer, does it matter? Maybe not for your business, and I'm not here to debate whether it does or not. But when you go through this process and when you're taking this introspective look at your business and you're thinking about how you want to be different and unique, I think it helps to look at that lens, not as a transaction, a service for money, but as a relationship where you're really trying to build win-win relationships and win-win solutions.
And everything you were just saying makes me think about retention, how important when you have a client, one of your objectives is to retain them. And without that value differentiation, you can't do that. So that see you later versus, see you the next time you come in, you're already connected. You're bringing them back. You want them again. I love that.
You want to know the funniest thing about this story?
Sure.
So my wife and daughters, they are the best at rewards and coupons and that whole bit. Quick Trip has a fantastic rewards program. Fantastic. Like, great, right? And I've never participated in their rewards program. Every time I check out, I feel bad. Rewards? No. It infuriates my family because why wouldn't you do that? And I said, you know what? Because I so care about being a client, I don't need the free cup of coffee. And a lot to what you said, that's my mentality is I don't need to take because I want them to build another one a mile down the road for my convenience.
Yeah,
right?
that's awesome.
Sounds silly, but that loyalty is embedded in that client experience.
Because you're already getting your full value. You didn't need that extra. That's awesome.
I'm getting my full value, right? It's not about the price at that point.
Right.
It's not about the price.
And you're not having to pay for someone's loyalty. You've already earned it.
Earned it.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
That is cool.
Yeah.
Well, hey, speaking of cool, this whole conversation was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed it. I know I did.
I know, and it went so fast. I feel like, we didn't even get to cover everything that we wanted to, but I do want everybody to, just take a minute, maybe pick up John's book. Again, you're going to roll your eyes at me, listeners, because I'm holding up the book for our YouTube watchers right now. Define Value, Drive Growth. There's a lot in here that we can all learn and a lot that we need to go do to develop our own value propositions. So thank you, John. This has just been a great conversation. Yeah,
thoroughly enjoyed it. And I know that the shameless plug for the book, but what we really tried to do is to take the conversation that we had, which was fantastic, and thank you both very much, as not easy as we made it sound, but as practical and as attainable as I hope we made it sound. The book allows people to say, hey, maybe I can do this if I really have a desire to do it and I put the effort into it and I follow the principles in the book and some of the tools we have on our website, I can do this. If your audience gets that feeling that they learned something today and there's a tool that they can be accomplished and they can do it, that would be terrific.
And we all need knowledge and we all need a playbook. Yep. So
yeah, it's funny. I know one thing on it, when everybody was looking and publishers were looking at the book, and one publisher said something that stuck with me, and that was, we don't need any more theory books. There's a lot of good theories out there. What businesses need today, especially small, medium-sized businesses, are practical approaches to execute that can change their business. And that always stuck with me because as our discussion here was, we were trying to give people practical, instances upon which they can act on. Same thing in synergy with the book is that practical approach that, maybe you don't take all the nuggets, but take those that can help your business. And that would be great. I know for our audience and for your audience is what you try and do on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and very quickly, Valinda, let me just thank you for stepping in and helping me out today.
It was a pleasure.
Your voice is just perfect for these conversations. So thank you.
It was my pleasure. Great to meet you, John.
Nice meeting you as well.
All right, everybody. I'm going to ask you to do one thing. I think this was a great episode. I learned a lot. Please share it with your colleagues and your friends. And let's all just keep thinking about how to drive more value for our organizations, for sure. So until next time, maybe go online and also, give us a review and a shout out. But let's just keep telling it like it is with no bull.